Damn it. I went to go stop the video so I could charge the camera, get like the busy work done, and it just started recording, so I didn't record any of that. I'm making custom taillights. Well, like custom. Like I'm gonna use that loosely because I'm just making them less shit. Basically this over here, I have moisture in it, so I just have it sitting on this heater right now, so that way it can just evaporate. So you can see that the middle one is already completely evaporated. This one right here still has some moisture in it, and this one here is still pretty bad. I was just drying them out, so I could just fix it. I just figured since I have the taillights out anyway, I'm gonna remake these taillights that I made like 8 years ago. So, short story long, when those kids smashed up the truck and everything, they broke one of my taillights. And I just got these used for super cheap just to slap on the truck, so that way I had something legal that I could drive around with. Fast forward quite a few years now, they're still on there. So these are just the stock taillights. And, you know, over time, when you're changing bulbs and stuff, especially in the bush, when you have, like, mud and everything all over, you get some dirt in those little gaskets or whatever. So that's these things here, the little gaskets that go, like, around here to seal this up against the housing. And, you know, sometimes you get some dirt in there, and then they start leaking, and then you get some moisture in your light, and whatever. It happens. It's not the end of the world. All you have to do is you just take these off, you clean them up really good, and then, you know, if you're doing a lot of wheeling and stuff where you're constantly going to have like shit everywhere, just take a little bit of grease and just kind of rub it on the seal so that way it has kind of an extra barrier to like repel dirt and stuff from getting in there, or dust, because the more dirt and dust that's in there, especially mud, because the water will evaporate with the heat, and then you just have voids going all the way through that moisture gets into, and then you get moisture in your taillight. Now, you could get moisture in your taillight if it's cracked around the back of the housing, like along this seal, but on the back. But these are not like that because it's only doing it on the bottom and then just very slightly on the top. So this right here is from that taillight. And you can see that there's just like tons of dirt in there, and some of the glue that I have for this bulb must have been stopping it from sealing perfectly. But yeah, so that's minor imperfections or whatever. It's not like a crazy thing. You just throw it on something that has mild heat and then it'll evaporate. As for this whole contraption right here, when I originally got the truck, the reverse lights didn't work. Well, one worked, and then the other one would blow bulbs right away. Like, you'd throw a bulb in, it would last maybe a week, and then it would go out again. So, it being the middle of winter, I didn't want to, like, dive into it or anything and try and figure out what was going on, so I just decided I'll just buy some LEDs. They're lower power, so that way if it's, like a load issue, then these aren't going to be pulling as much power, so it's not going to be an issue. At least until the spring, when I can kind of throw stuff at it and try and figure it out. Short story long, that didn't work either. So I ended up taking these out. I took the whole thing apart, and it was cracked along one side. I can't remember where, but like water was pooling in because reverse light, so it's on the bottom. And this entire area right here was completely corroded away. There was like nothing left. And the other one just had like rust traces, like just very mildly making continuity between it. But then because of like the excess load, because of it being rust, so it's like it's changing the impedance of it, it was just blowing out bulbs like crazy. So I ended up taking both of them apart. I took all of the rust out and everything. I just took like the little plastic seat that this goes into. I soldered on some wires, and then I put those wires up to the traces where it was still good on the inside. Put epoxy all on the inside, and then this right here is just like some rubber sealant stuff or whatever, just to make sure that it was like weather seal in case the epoxy didn't work. But fast forward 8 years, these have not failed. This bulb still works perfect. I've never had any issues. I'm more than content, despite how ugly this looks. Now, when I made those custom taillights, I believe it was the right side. Had like a giant crack in it or something. I'll try and find some pictures to throw it up. I guess the previous owner put like some clear like silicone or something on there, and it started yellowing. Plus it was like rubber, so it was like just super, super gross. So I sanded all that off. I took a Dremel and I actually like ground out the crack, and then I filled it with clear epoxy, sanded that down, and then I figured since I was going to be clear coating the taillights anyway to blend in that repair that I did, I decided to mask it off. I got some VHT. I did a black reverse light, and then I reversed it after it dried. I put the masking on the black, and then I sprayed the entire thing with the red nightshades, because this right here has more of a dark cherry red to it rather than this like bright red. So if I turn this light off, you have like a pretty dark red right here, and that's what it'll look like all the time, as opposed to this like super bright red. That's what I'm getting at. It's going to be darker red. I've already started all of this because I wasn't recording when I thought I was. So I'm going to kind of run you through what I did here. Just took a red Brillo pad, scuffed the whole thing up, Took some Bright Clean and a paper towel, wiped it all down. I took some green tape. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just this is thicker stuff, or wider, so it covers more area. And I just laid the strips down around the perimeter, and then I just took some of this stuff here, like the smaller stuff, and I just ripped it up into these little squares, and then I was using the factory cut edge, so that way it's perfectly straight, and I was just laying piece by piece down to make those corners. And that's it. And I was about to say that I'm going to continue doing all of the busy work of finishing the other 3 corners and then doing that whole light there, so that way we're prepped and ready to go. And I was going to come back once it's ready to start spraying the black VHT nightshades. Now that you're all caught up, and I have just completely repeated myself to absolutely no one because it's just me in here and I'm literally talking to a camera. We're ready to go. We are ready to continue from where I had left off before this video started because I'm a fucking idiot. Okay, so this is adhesion promoter, basically plastic for primer. Wait, no, primer for plastic. It's like a solvent that goes into the plastic and opens the pore so that way it can accept things and it kind of hardens inside of it. So I just gotta do a very quick coat right here, let that flash for about 5 minutes, and then we can start spraying this. Also, if your headlights are all decked, this is how you can make them clear again. You literally just scuff them up, so it looks like this, and you just clear coat right over top. Well, you've got to do the adhesion promoter first, then clear coat. Okay, now we're ready for this stuff, and we got to do it from really far away, because it comes out pretty thick. Or not thick, but potent. So just got to kind of like mist it over, sort of. There, that's it. No more. Just leave it. Let that tack up. We'll do it again. Now this is tint spray. We have to kind of look, and this needs a little bit more right here. Middle looks good, so little touch up right there. Now you can see they're nice and even. So I'm going to do a second coat, and that's probably it. Alright, so just a little bit more on this one. Alright. I'm going to do one more coat. I'm going to rotate the tip, so that way it sprays horizontal. Start taking all the masking tape off. Now when this is dry, I can mask the black and do a coat of red. I can let this cure for a little bit, and then I can mask this off, spray the entire thing with red. I have to clean it again, obviously, because I was touching it. And then once the entire thing is red, I can peel this masking off, wait for that to dry, and then clear coat the entire thing. And I have to do a lot of clear coat. I'm probably going to do like 6 coats, because like most of this is going to get wet sanded down after, because there's going to be like a disgusting bump between these two, because the masking isn't going to be perfect. So by building up the clear, I'll be able to wet sand down past the imperfections, and then it'll just be like a mirror right across the whole thing, and it'll work out. So I'm just ripping like thin strips, and I'm just rounding them over. Do it to both sides. Now we can just toss these up into the corner, however my jagged cuts line up. There we go, perfect corner. And you can take your straight pieces. Just that easy. And stick it in there. That piece right in there. Hold that up because it was too long. I would have extended past it. Now we can just run straight here. So I scuffed them again with the Brillo pad. I cleaned them with the Bright Clean, and I did the adhesion promoter, and it's been about 5 minutes, so we're ready for the red now. There we go. You can already see it's like a way darker red. So after 2 more coats of this, it's gonna be perfect. This is the second coat. And the third and last coat. Now I can start peeling all this off. I can scuff it up one last time, clean it up again with the Bright Clean after it's all cured. We'll scuff it after it's cured, clean the dust and everything off, and then we're ready for clear coat. And I have to do a lot of clear coat. So let's just start peeling this up. There we go. Not too bad. Obviously there's still moisture in here, which is why I'm using the heat gun, because it's keeping them warm as well as like accelerating the drying. It's not going to accelerate how it cures, but it'll accelerate it drying. So I'm just going to keep at it with the heat gun, make sure this is all nice and dry. I'm going to let it cool down, because once it gets to like ambient temperature or whatever, then it'll have enough time to off gas. That's kind of like my rule of thumb between coats. So I'll heat it up with the heat gun, and once it naturally cools down enough, that was enough time to start handling, at least for acrylic paint. Alright, so that's good. Those are pretty toasty. I'm just going to leave it until they cool down, and then I'm going to scuff them up, clean them, and it's time for clear coat. I'm going to want to do a couple tack coats, so I'm going to be spraying this from really far away. Just kind of let it mist on there so it has something to bite onto. Because when you're going over top of paint with clear coat and it's still relatively fresh, it does have a very, very high chance of reacting because this hasn't off-gassed yet. So we're kind of playing with fire at this point, because if I put it on too thick, it's going to destroy the entire taillight. So if you're doing this, like wait until you do the clear coat. Wait for it to fully cure, just leave it overnight, then scuff it and clean it up again in the morning. And if I destroy these taillights, then looks like I'm driving to work without taillights. That's it, just like a haze over top of it. So you can see that the finish is just absolutely disgusting. Now the point of this is to get as much clear on as possible with the most aggressive surface. So that way when I add more, it's going to bite into all of those peaks and valleys of all the orange peel that I'm making right now. So that way I'll be able to add more that I can sand off. Because right here, you can actually see that there's like a physical line between the black and the red that I did. So I'm trying to get enough on that I can sand it down to get rid of that divot. Now we're ready for the 4th, 5th, and 6th coat, which are going to be the heavy coats. So now this is where it's going to shine, and it's going to have a ridiculous amount of orange peel. But as we add more, the orange peel is going to start feathering out until we have like a less shit surface. But to get the mirror shine that I'm after, I have to wet sand that down. So that's why I'm adding so much clear coat right now. If you just tinted them all one color, like if you just did the black across the entire thing, just a nice light tint, then you could do 1 tack coat like this instead of 3. And then you could do 2 heavy coats over top of it. And then just very lightly wet sand the last coat down with like, say 1000, maybe even start at 1500 grit sandpaper, go to like 2000, and then use a buffer, like a rotary buffer, then go back over it with an orbital polisher, and just using like regular, buffing compounds and stuff for the exterior of your vehicle. So for me, I'm going to install these looking like ass, and then in about a week, once they've fully cured, I'm going to wet sand them on the truck and polish them on the truck, because I can also polish the rest of the truck at the same time. So we are now ready for the 6th and final coat. This is the 3rd heavy coat. Okay, so let's look at the lights. As for the finish, they're pretty good. I was gonna wet sand them, but clearly winter came out of nowhere because I wanted to wait about a week for them to cure. So the clear coat had time to, cure. Now it's freezing, and the finish on them, I don't know, like it's kind of hard to see or whatever, but like it's pretty damn good. So let's just put that guy in retreat. Yeah, that's what they look like. Wow, they're lights. That's it. That's what they do. And I mean, obviously you can't see, but they still work pretty well. Like those LEDs are stupid bright, but they're kind of neat. Subtle, but different, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, that's it. That wraps up the whole thing. So, hopefully you found something useful here. Like the video if you liked it. That's cool. Subscribe if you haven't already. Or don't do any of it. I'm not telling you what to do.